All right. Hi and welcome. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We are really excited you're here. I'm going to give folks just another 30 seconds to get settled in, and then we will get kicked off. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to get started here in just a few seconds, giving folks a chance to get settled in. All right. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the promoting registration of inverters and modules with the Ecolabel Prime Prize. We are really, really excited for this prize. Just as a note, this webinar is being recorded, and we will make the recording of this webinar along with the slides as well as written responses to all the Q&A questions available following today's presentation. My name is Emily Evans. I'm from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. I am joined today by Tim, Hamed, and Paul from the Department of Energy. Thank you so much for joining us, as well as Debbie Graham Clifford from GEC, here to answer all of your questions. So without any further ado, let's hop into the agenda. We're going to start off today with just a brief note around housekeeping, get us set up, and then we're going to hand things over to Hamed to talk about the background and context of the Prime Prize. Then Paul from DOE will give us an overview of the Prime Prize and what you can expect. I will then talk us through the eligibility criteria as well as the phase 1 and phase 2 submission requirements. We're going to end today's presentation with a HeroX platform demonstration, and then we'll be happy to take your questions as a live Q&A. As I have already mentioned, but just to make sure that you are aware, we will be providing written responses to all of the questions that are asked today. So if we're unable to answer your question live, we will absolutely get you the information you need via a written response. A few housekeeping items. Again, today's webinar is being recorded, and we will make this recording along with a PDF of the slide deck available via HeroX. We will have time for Q&A. On the Q&A, please make sure that you're typing your questions into the Q&A tool. That's where we're going to be looking for those questions and pulling them after today's webinar. And then, of course, we will be providing written responses. And with that, it's my pleasure to hand things over to Hamed Shahram. Hamed, over to you.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, we're going to talk a little about the background of EPEAT. The EPEAT Ecolabel is managed by the Global Electronics Council and is recognized as a leading Type 1 eco-label for electronics and technology products. It was established in 2006. The EPEAT helps purchasers identify sustainable technologies, products, and services by providing a comprehensive online registry of products that meet specific environmental criteria. So most EPEAT registered products are consumer electronics, monitors, printers, modems with high manufacturer engagement. The EPEAT registry for solar modules and inverters was introduced in 2021 with additional updates in 2023 to calculate product carbon footprint. And the solar modules and inverters must adhere to certain criteria set as the NSF ANSI 457 2019 and the EPEAT ULCS 2023 to receive a bronze, silver, gold EPEAT rating on the EPEAT project registry. Go to the next slide. So currently there are only 4 PV modules for US use on the EPEAT registry, and there are 0 inverter modules currently used on the registry. And why are the numbers so low? Well, there's high bars to meet these eco-label standards, and focusing on beginning US manufacturing was more prominent rather than product certification at this early stage. And we observe high competition and customer priorities for product designations UFLPA entity listings, BABA, etc., as well as standard procurement issues of product fit to customer needs. And with that, we'll go to the next slide, and Paul will be talking about the overview of the Prime Prize.
Hello, I'm Paul Kramer, a fellow here at the Department of Energy supporting the Prime Prize. The purpose of the Prime Prize is to incentivize the registration of photovoltaic and inverter products with GEC's EPEAT Ecolabel. The Prime Prize pool is going to be $2.7 million worth of awards and will occur in 2 phases. Increasing the list of PV modules and inverters that are on the GEC Ecolabel supports federal procurement initiatives and government sustainability goals, as well as it signals to customers, manufacturers, and the market at large the value of the EPEAT Ecolabel registration. Next slide. There we go. The Prime Prize will occur in 2 phases. First 6 months is the apply phase, where manufacturers will demonstrate their intent to participate in the EPEAT Prize, register their modules or inverter products, and/or the submissions will include competitor information and the products intended for listing on the EPEAT registry. The submission will require proof of EPEAT participation, which will be some form of confirmation from GEC, and any manufacturer may submit data sheets for up to 4 products intended to be listed on the EPEAT registry. The second phase is our certify phase. It goes for up to 2 years. This is where the manufacturers will demonstrate the completion of verification of PV modules or inverter products with the GEC-approved conformity assurance body and listing on the EPEAT registry. So these submissions will include competitor information and proof of listing of the public EPEAT registry for each product. This will also include notices from GEC of successful product registration, an affidavit of product validation from selected eligible conformity assurance body, and the data sheets for up to the 4 products. Next slide. So phase 1, your apply phase, lasts for 6 months. You will receive $50,000 for winning the phase 1 apply submission. There will be 1 award granted per entity, though they may submit up to 4 data sheets for 4 separate products. Phase 2, the certifies phase, will last for up to 2 years, be $100,000 per product, and you will have up to 4 awarded products per winner, to $450,000 worth per entity, per competing entity. Next slide. The Prime Prize key dates. The Prime Prize submission, phase 1 submissions are open. They opened as of October 15th. They will go until April 17th. There will be rolling deadlines for phase 2, with the final deadline being February in 2027. Entities will have multiple opportunities to submit. And with that, we can move on to your eligibility criteria.
Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate you talking us through that. All right, so the Prime Prize is open to for-profit business entities, such as corporations or other organizations. To be eligible for this prize, you do have to be a US-based manufacturer of solar PV modules or solar PV inverter products that are eligible for listing in the EPEAT registry. If you have questions on that, we are joined by GEC, who can answer those questions for you today. A couple other items to make note of: manufacturers must not have any products listed on the EPEAT registry, including the PV modules and inverters, as of the close of the phase 1 submissions that Paul just talked us through. So if you're kind of in the process now, as long as they're not listed as of that submission deadline, you are still eligible for this prize. And you also must be a for-profit business entity. In phase 2, only winners of phase 1 are eligible to compete in phase 2, and only the products submitted and awarded during phase 1 are eligible for submission and award in phase 2. So you can't submit one product in phase 2 and then have another product entered and competed in phase one. Those products have to be the same. Some additional notes on product eligibility. Product is defined for the purposes of this prize as a discrete or offered model or family of models that are sharing a set of identifying characteristics that are including but not limited to product identification numbers and data sheets. Products also have to be complete and must complete the final assembly in the United States, meaning that you can source parts, but the final assembly must be manufactured in the United States. There's some more details underneath there. This is all, we're going to talk about the rules document, but this is all found in the official rules document if you want to take a really detailed look at it. And then finally, products must be available for sale in the United States as of the submission date for the phase two deadlines that Paul just talked us through as well. So that's a pretty generous timeline, but those products must be available for sale. And you must also be able to maintain all required safety certifications for the US market. Again, this is all detailed in section 1.3 of the official rules. Now moving on to the phase one submission requirements. Again, you have to submit to phase one to be eligible to compete in phase two. The first step to competing in any prize, but the prime prize in particular, is to read the official rules document. We have the link up here, and either Cameron or Stacy will put this link in the chat. This is your handbook on how to apply for this prize. Everything you need to know, everything that we're talking about today is included in this rules document. Prize steps, this is again for phase one. Step one is submission. So as a competitor, you're going to compile and submit all of the required documentation for your intended products that you want to list on the EPEAT registry before the submission deadline. Then following the submission deadline, we're going to review all eligible submissions. We'll assign them to subject matter experts to review, and we will then select and announce winners. Once winners have been announced, those winners will each receive a $50,000 cash prize award. So what do you need to submit in phase one? There are three main things that you need to submit to complete a submission for phase one. That includes competitor information. This is general information that you're going to submit via the HeroX submission form. We're going to look at that in just a moment. Then you need to submit proof of EP participation in the form of a confirmation letter from GEC. Third, data sets for your up to 4 products that you're intending to list on the EPEAT registry. Each competitor is allowed to propose up to 4 products. And so we'll be asking for those data sheets that's telling us just all the information and the details and the specs for those products. In terms of competitor and information, this is what you can expect to see on the HeroX submission form. Notably, we do want you to tell us the number of products that you're intending to list, the list of product names, your declaration of eligibility for each of the products, your intended EPEAT registration date, intended EPEAT tier, so that's bronze, silver, or gold, and then for PV modules, the intended embodied carbon level, so either low carbon solar or ultra low carbon solar. Here's an example of what we're looking for the proof of EPEAT participation. So again, we're looking for a confirmation from GEC, the Global Electronics Council. And that letter must identify an eligible conformity assurance body, or CAB, for the intended products. The CAB must be headquartered in the US. And if you have any questions, again, we are very lucky to be joined today by GEC, who can answer some of your questions. Otherwise, you can go to the EPEAT website for more information. Then the last item that we are looking for are data sheets. These data sheets must be submitted for each product that you're intending to register. So these data sheets may be preliminary, so you can still be pending safety certifications as of phase one, or they can be published for commercial sale. In terms of how we determine and award winners, We will screen all submissions to ensure that they are compliant with eligibility. DOE then will designate a federal employee to serve as judge to make the final determinations. That the judge will take into consideration feedback from the expert review panel. And then we will select up to 21 total products for certification. Now, just to note that should we receive applications for more than 21 total products, DOE may consider adding additional prize funding to award additional winners, and that's always pending future appropriations. But you know, you should definitely submit as many products as you intend to list on EPEAT, because we very much want to encourage that with this prize. Like I said, only winners of phase 1 will then be able to go into phase 2. Phase 2, the submission steps look similar. So we're going to start with the submission process. You are going to compile and submit all the documentation for the products, showing that they've been successfully registered for listing on the EPEAT Registry online before the submission deadline. And as Paul talked us through, there are 4 different submission deadlines for you to do that during phase 2. So there is a lot of flexibility there for when you want to submit. So if you're kind of on the fast track, you can always submit to the first one. If you are, if you need a little bit more time, you are welcome to submit to that later one. You can choose which submission deadline that you would like to submit for. Then once you do complete your submission, we will then evaluate, we will screen it, make sure that you meet all of the requirements. As long as you meet all the requirements, you will receive the cash prize award. And for each submission deadline, we will publicly announce winners and post them on our website. And of course, make the prize payment. So in terms of what to submit for phase 2, again, we're going to be looking for competitor information. We'll then be looking for proof of listing on the EPEAT registry for up to 4 products. Again, those are the same up to 4 products that you submitted in phase 1. And then data sheets for the 4 products that are being listed on the EPEAT registry. Again, competitor information, this will look very similar to phase 1. Proof of EPEAT listing, I apologize, I think that list might have been incorrect on the previous slide. We will, instead the data sheets, we will be looking for the proof of the EPEAT listing. So this will include notices from GEC of your successful product registration, affidavit of product validation from selected eligible CABs. Oh, and then the data sheet. So we will be asking for those data sheets again. We will also be looking for those proof of registrations. So we will be asking for those data sheets. Again, very similar to how we determine winners, we will receive those submissions and we will receive all submissions, we will review them, we check them for eligibility, we then assign them for complete review, make sure that all the submission requirements are have been completed, and then as long as you have met those submission requirements, you will be announced as a phase 2 winner. So let's switch gears a little bit and look at the HeroX platform demonstration. HeroX is our primary prize platform, where we use to communicate everything that you need to know about the prize, and then also to accept submissions, and we'll use it for general communications. It's very important. Cameron or Stacy is going to go ahead and drop this link in the chat, so please follow along with me. So you will notice here I'm at herox.com/prime prize. I'll have a couple extra buttons here just because of the nature of my account, but yours will look very similar to this. The first thing that you will need to do is to sign into your account. If you don't have an account, you will have an option to create an account. It's very easy to create an account. Just list your name and email, then click on the follow button. What following the prize is going to do, it's going to send you an email every time that there is a prize update. So for example, when we post the written Q&As, when we post the written Q&As to this webinar, we'll post an update to HeroX, and then you will be able to get an email and know that there is some new information about the prize that's being posted. You'll also receive timeline updates and when submission deadlines are coming up. So it's very, very important that you follow the prize. I would encourage each and every one of you, or if you are interested in this prize, to go to HeroX right now and click that follow button. A few other things that you can do on the HeroX page. If you go down here to the middle of the page, you'll see these tab options. Summary will give you a summary of the prize. Timeline is going to be updated with all of the information. So you can see here that the informational webinar is listed, as well as the April 17th submission deadline. You can then see a history of all of the updates that we have posted to date. There is a form. We monitor this form. You're welcome to post new topics, ask questions of your fellow competitors. You can also check out who has signed up for the prize already. Once you sign up for the prize, you will then be listed here as well. And then you will have the resources tab. The resources tab is where you're going to find the informational webinar recording and slides, the official rules and instructions on how to register on HeroX. So when you click on the official rules, it's going to take you to the full rules document. And again, this is the #1 thing that you can do to be successful in this prize. Finally, the FAQ. We have a robust FAQ here, and we'll be posting questions and answers as we receive them so that everyone has access to the same information. If you are interested in moving forward as a competitor for this prize, really all you need to do is click on the Solve This Challenge button. It's going to walk you through a few agreements, and then you have an option to create your own team. You can join an existing team, or you can compete individually. My recommendation for you is to create your own team, or if you are joining a team, that is also a great option. So if I want to say, yes, I want to create my own team, you don't have to add anyone else, just click the accept. And then there's an option if you're looking for team members, but for this prize, you're probably just fine. And then that will register you as a team and you'll be set to go. You'll notice then that this button will change to begin entry. Click on the begin entry button. This is going to take you to the phase 1 submission form. So this is going to then give you the option to write a title, go through all of the eligibility. You have an option to agree or disagree. Just noting that if you do select I disagree, you will be ineligible for this prize. And then we'll ask you to go through all of that competitor information, the team information, the competitor information, and then your individual submission items that we were just talking about for phase 1. You will upload your proof of EPEAT participation. Again, this is the letter from GEC, and then also the data sheets. Finally, the final payment question. If you are awarded a prize, who are we making payment to? It's a huge help to our team when we are making these payments. If you write your company name exactly how it appears on your tax paperwork, that is a huge help to us. So if you are Solar Inverters 123 Inc., that's exactly what you should write on this form. That really helps us out. And then finally, we do have some voluntary self-identification questions. This just helps us as a program understand better who our competitors are. This is, as always, optional. Once you're done, you can save and preview your form. And then once all the required information is listed, you will have the option to submit. Please make sure that you hit the submission button well before that final submission deadline. Before 5 p.m. Eastern, the submission form will close down at that time. So I highly encourage you to get your submission in well ahead of that deadline. All right, we're going to go back to the main presentation here. Again, we will have We will have this up on the HeroX website. So if you need a quick refresher of where the things are located, you can check out this resource. And then finally, on our Prime Prize, we do have the pleasure of being supported by an American-made power connector. Details on that power connector and how to connect to them will be posted on HeroX in the very near future. Again, another reason to follow the prize and join on HeroX to make sure that you get connected. Our power connector will be able to help you via office hours, application support, answering questions. If you have specific questions about the prize, they're here to help you. They're really a fabulous resource. So I would encourage you all to take advantage of them. So we are going to open it up for your questions. But before we do, a couple of the things that you need to do that are your action items today to participate in the Prime Prize is A, follow the prize on HeroX, read the rules document, and make sure to submit your phase 1 submission by the submission deadline, which is April 17th at 5 p.m. Eastern. We are going to open it up for Q&A, but just note that if you have questions after today, as we get closer to that submission deadline, we are always available to answer your questions at primeprize@nrel.gov. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to invite my panelists, Tim, Ahmed, Debbie, and Paul. If you'd like to turn your cameras on, let's go ahead and get into the Q&A.
Great. Thanks, Emily. We already had a couple of questions come in, so I'll answer these first two, and then Debbie, I'll turn it over to you for the third. The first, can you clarify eligibility regarding American-based manufacturing? Does that require U.S. headquarters, or can a company headquartered elsewhere but with U.S. operations qualify? Here, this is related to and this is all in the eligibility requirements. The corporate entity applying for this prize needs to be incorporated in and maintain its primary place of business in the United States. That is to say, it needs to be, if it is a subsidiary of a larger, multinational corporation, there still needs to be a corporate entity established in the United States conducting operations for the United States market. I would say as well, this will probably also be related to the additional eligibility requirement that products complete final assembly in the United States. And so that being, the final substantive transformation taking place in the United States, whether for modules or for inverters. So if you're a multinational corporation with, operations around the globe, but you do have, a primary sub-entity in the United States that is conducting operations for the United States market, you would be eligible for the prize. You do need to make sure your products are completed in the United States. The second question was related to eligibility of sort of prototype products or products that are not yet available for commercial sale. It is in phase 1 acceptable if your product is not yet available for commercial sale. You will need data sheets to be submitted as part of that phase 1. But if you're still, for example, waiting on certain safety certifications over these next 6 months, but intend to achieve those within the 2.5-year span of the prize, it would be acceptable for you to submit during phase 1. However, your product does need to be commercially available, sold on the market by the end of phase 2. So if you're not going to achieve commercial sale on the timeline of the prize, then unfortunately your product would not be eligible. And it's probably something you should consider when applying for phase 1 is the timeline to market of the release of your product. Debbie, if you want to answer this third question about EPD and EPEAT.
Yep, thanks, Tim. So the question is, could you explain the differences and similarities between an EPD and EPEAT? So EPEAT is a multi-attribute eco-label, and the EPD obviously is an environmental product declaration. So as far as similarities, lots of similarities. However, the main difference is that, again, EPEAT concentrates on more than one area of sustainability impact. So when EPD, which would be based on a life cycle analysis, would fall under the climate change mitigation or area of our criteria. It would be a portion of the criteria as opposed to a be all and end all. So the short answer to the question is, would having an EPD already in place reduce the effort that's required? Yes, potentially, because you've already done a life cycle analysis of your product, right? So hopefully, depending on how long ago that was done, right, it needs to be done within a set amount of time. And information that actually covers this can be found in the criteria for ultra low carbon solar modules. So there are two portions of criteria. The first was the NSF 457. That's the first set of criteria. And then that was followed by the addition of the ultra low carbon solar modules, where I think you mentioned earlier, Emily, this is where the carbon thresholds came into the criteria. So EPDs are definitely covered there. And I think in the Annex E that I looked at, the EPDs are covered there. And I think the links to the criteria are contained in several places on the website, but happy to provide that if anyone needs it.
Great. Thank you so much, Debbie. Tim, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah, I can take the next question. This is the question broadly is about what types of products are eligible for submission in this prize. We are products that are solar modules and solar inverters are eligible for this prize is the short answer. The definition of a solar module and a solar inverter is defined in that NSF 457 2019 criteria in section 1.2. We're talking about products that generate electric power using solar energy through PV cells. That includes their interconnection encapsulant and superstrate. Products that are related to balance of system, including electrical and structural balance of system, are not eligible for the prize. The second category of product that would be eligible is PV inverters that convert and condition electrical power of a PV module to AC. That's a summary of the full written definition in the NSF 457 2019 criteria. If you have a question about whether or not the product your company offers would be eligible or fit under that definition, I would encourage you to please read those definitions. And if you have further questions, reach out to us and we can engage specifically with your product.
Great, thank you, Tim. We have another question that was submitted. Any issue with the inverter product being manufactured by a contract manufacturer exclusively on behalf of the applicant?
I would say in this example, the owner of the technology and the product should be submitting for the prize. If they complete their final manufacture of the product using a contract manufacturer, then that should be noted as part of the application materials. But the application should come from the primary manufacturer, not the contract manufacturer.
Tim, can I add something to that too, just to further on the EPEAT side? So obviously we had that scenario, right, come up where people are dealing with contract manufacturers, and part of the criteria actually look at the product, and the other look at the look at the company itself. So just to reiterate exactly what you're saying, EPEAT would be looking at the company the brand name that's going to appear on the EPEAT registry in terms of meeting the criteria that relate to ESG and the supply chain, etc.
Great. Thank you, Debbie. It looks like we do have a hand up. Changming Fan, do you have a follow-up from your previous question? If you're speaking, you're currently muted.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I have a question. Some part of you've been answered. I really appreciate it. Our product name is Solar Seaweed. You can see the YouTube and there's some brief info. The product material is not silicon-based panel-like. Like in the picture, you see that this is not what our product is. Our product more like seaweed is vertical upwards, thin film roll to roll. The material, basically 3 channels. Some are made in the US, but it's from the lab, mostly DOE labs. Second part, if you can buy from Alibaba, which is manufactured from China. Some part we can buy from other countries in Europe. Here's the problem, questions. in order to give you the data sheet, should we are restricted in order to get a prime recognition, only use the market not widely available from the labs of the OE? That is the question.
Okay. Let me try and unpack your question there and see if I answer what you're asking appropriately. Overall, you know, conceptually, it does sound like your product would be eligible, considering that it is a, you know, generating power using photovoltaics, so does fall within the definition of a PV module. As to the supply chain of the various pieces of your products, that's fine. That various aspects of it are coming from Europe or from other countries, as long as final significant transformation of the product occurs in the United States. I will say, however, that if your products are being sourced from these various other countries, this will presumably carry with it various environmental footprints and supply chain aspects that you will need to account for when attempting to have your product certified via EPEAT. So I would strongly recommend that you read the registration requirements and the NSF requirements, you know, for EPEAT in order to understand if you're going to be able to certify your product. As to the fact that the product, you know, some of your materials are not yet commercially available, this I think would get back to my previous idea, or, you know, previous response to your initial question, that if your product is not going to be fully commercial available, or you don't have reliable access to the materials required to generate your product, then this may not be the prize for you if your product is not going to be readily commercially available within the next 2.5 years by the deadline of the prize. So all of which is to say, yeah, please, you know, examine your own operations, understand your pathway to commercial launch in the market, and see whether or not your product can then fit into the EPEAT requirements for solar modules there.
Quickly follow up and then finish, just 20 seconds. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Yes, very quick. Perovskite thin film, as I've sent it to you from Q&A, is perovskite thin film roll to roll. The best is in the US lab of DOE. The other part we can buy it, use them from different countries. And also just quickly double check is phase 1, we are eligible in this specific case. Is it okay for maybe win the prize or not? Thank you.
So final eligibility is determined by the prize administrator, in this case, NREL. Something we would examine is whether or not the submitted application demonstrates, if your product is pre-commercial, demonstrates that path to commercial sale within the next 2 years. If not, then it's likely we would mark your prize ineligible. As to the use of thin films or perovskites as the material, as your photovoltaic generating material, this would be acceptable within the bounds of the prize, as these products are able to be EPEAT registered, or, you know, achieve the EPEAT registration requirements there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tim, pulling on that thread of commercial products, we have another question in the chat. Is the only requirement to have a commercial product available by the end of phase 2, or is there requirements to have a certain period of production complete in order to meet the criteria?
Yeah, we have not designated a period of production to make a product eligible for phase 2. It needs to be available for sale on the commercial market. I will say, unless the product is available for sale, then, and Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, unless it's available for sale, it will not be listed on the EPEAT registry.
Yep, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
So part of this will be engaging with your conformity assurance body, going through the EPEAT process that way, and they will, you know, get you through the requirements to have your product publicly listed on their registry, and that, yeah, includes some aspect of commercial sale and of commercial eligibility, but we're not requiring a period of production as part of eligibility.
Perfect. Really great questions. We are at the end of our submitted questions. If there are additional questions that participants on the call would like to be answered, we're more than happy to do that. Otherwise, just a reminder to follow the prize on HeroX, read the rules, and submit your phase 1 submission deadline. Should you have additional questions that come up to you between now and April 17th, we are always available at primeprize@nrel.gov. Let's go ahead. Oh, and well, nope. Yes, I did receive one more question here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one.
That's a duplicate
Tim,
of a previously submitted question.
That's what I was
related
wondering.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right.
again, related to product
we already covered,
eligibility,
yeah.
please review the the definition of a solar module and a solar inverter in the standard to determine if your product is eligible.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you repeating that answer. All right, we'll leave it open for just another moment here, but thank you to our panelists today. Thank you to Hamed, Paul, and Tim, as well as Debbie from GEC to join us. Wonderful information. Thank you to all of our participants. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are really excited for this prize. It's going to be a great prize. If you have any questions, we are always here to help your support or help enable your success in this prize. Follow the prize on HeroX. We'll be sending out more information about how to engage with our power connector who can offer you additional support. And we don't have any additional questions. Just a huge thank you to everyone. And this concludes our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you all. We look forward to your submissions.